in the perfect position. They're in a team that really has wide open wide receiver positions. That would be great to see one or both of them cash in on that and get a job.
Absolutely. Snead, also a smaller guy, 5'11", $195, but I mean he tore up the MAC and he played very well at Ball State. The opportunity, like you said, the opportunity is there, and that's all that a guy can look for. And I go to Charles Johnson too. Again, that's a big guy. I like what I've limited practice stuff that I've seen with him, but I'm curious to see him, and I think we're going to get some big doses of him. I think that the Browns are really intrigued by him. He could be nothing, but I think the fact that they haven't been able to see yet is what keeps them intrigued with Charles Johnson.
That's right. This is going to be his chance. As long as he can stay healthy, he can maybe, tip the scales and, not necessarily even just get the last spot. He could possibly get, a number 3. He could play himself into a number 3 spot on the team, like you said.
That's the same way, though, that the sentences used to start about our boy Carlton Mitchell, though. They would start out the same way.
Right.
That's my man. I love C. Mitch. That's my dude. He was one of the first Browns active players that we ever had on the show years ago. And every year we would say that same thing because the opportunity was there for him, but he couldn't stay healthy. And the one year he really had a bona fide opportunity, and again he got hurt, and finally it was one injury too many. But that just sentence that sounded his famous last words, because many people's camps start with that sentence and end with, but it didn't work out for him, Offensively, I guess there's only one real position left to look at on the offensive side. No reason to really drag into it. We know it's Hoyer, it's Manziel. You and I have talked a lot about this already. We know how it's structured, and all that's left to see is how it plays out and goes down. The first 2 or 3 weeks are going to be crucial. The second half will be built towards getting the team ready for opening day. So I'm sticking by what I said. If John Manziel comes in, makes everybody go, holy cow, for 2 weeks straight, he has an opportunity to put his name in there. Otherwise, I think very shortly after that, we move to business as usual and we get that out of the way and begin the process of getting both guys ready for the season.
Well, the good news is I think a healthy Hoyer and Manziel are going to perform better than a healthy Jason Campbell and Brandon Wiggins. So as long as you can keep those two healthy, I think that whoever is the quarterback is going to perform better. And it seems from what I've heard that, even if something happens to Hoyer, if he's not ready, if the Browns have to start Manziel on opening day, I think they're fine with that. I think that they think that he can excel, which is really, a high compliment for him. Almost makes you wonder why they didn't draft him even higher at number 4. But they know that they've got somebody who's got a special talent. But obviously, I think the best thing would be to not rush him and not put him out there until he's ready, until his talent shows that he's ready to get out there and succeed. So you just have to hope that Hoyer can stay healthy enough and play well enough so that Manziel isn't forced into action before he's ready. So I think that would be the only downside. You want to take your prized young quarterback and throw him to the wolves. But like you said, if he's ready to go, he's ready to win week 1, then yeah, let's go ahead and do it and start the party.
Absolutely. And, yesterday LG called in and he said he thinks there's, undue pressure from the top to start him from the beginning. I said, well, there's going to be some of that maybe from Jimmy, but I don't think enough. I think that because Ray Farmer and Pettin are kind of on the same page about letting it play out. And really, just in general, I know people have their own beliefs, and those guys believe in the veteran over the rookie unless it's the exception to the rule, So because of that, I don't think they're going to bend. I do believe that 100%, if Johnny Manziel deserves the job, he will get it. Like, I don't believe that they're that stuck in the ground that way, but I don't believe they're going to be swayed either way. And I just don't think there's enough time. Maybe if there was, more, I believe in 6 weeks, you've got 2-3 weeks tops to win the job if you're Johnny Manziel. And I don't know if that's enough time to overcome a mindset from the coach who already sees your competitor as far ahead of you.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because sometimes these decisions are made for us. I mean, if anything happens to either one of them physically,
and that's it.
Then the other guy's in.
That's the key. That's why they got to get them both ready as quickly as possible, too, because
right.
At any moment, either one of them can be down. Hell, hey, you need to get Connor Shaw ready too, because at any moment we could be 3 weeks from now going, we got no quarterback, let alone who's going to be the one. Knock on wood, that doesn't happen, but you know how it goes here in Cleveland, man.
Yeah, call Vince Young up again.
So, let's flip over to the other side of the ball. We could beat the quarterback thing into the ground, but there's no need to. That's going to play itself out. Hoyer, Manziel, Tyler Thigpen, Connor Shaw, those are the guys. Don't sleep on Connor Shaw. Problem is I think he may have to make the roster. The Browns haven't taken 3 quarterbacks a lot into the season. I don't think you can sneak him by on a practice squad. I think somebody may snatch him up. But either way, I don't see Tyler Thigpen being there at the end. I think you're going to have Hoyer, and Hoyer's the right guy to mentor 2 young quarterbacks. I think you've got 2 rookies behind him, and that'll be a good way to go. And then you're covered in all bases. He's mentoring both of them, and if the job switches, whether it's in week 1, week 3, week 10, week 15, whatever, you've still got, Hoyer able to step in and start, and he's mentoring Connor Shaw at the same time, and you're preparing him to be your future backup quarterback. So nothing but good things can come of that if it's done the right way. Do you agree?
That's right. Yeah, obviously, I just hope that Hoyer is 100% based on the injury that he had last time. If he can go out there and not be thinking about his knee and just be able to perform the way he wants to. We saw a lot of good decision-making from him. We saw some strong arm throwing from him last year. And I think that Hoyer can definitely win some games for us. He has to be out there to do it. I think it can happen.
You're listening to the Sports Fix on the Sports Fix Radio Network. J-Rock talking to my man Jeff Gorman from Browns101.com, talking a little bit about the Browns as training camp starts here and getting into some of these positional battles. Look through the offensive side of the ball. Let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball. I'm a little bit fired up here about that because I believe, and I've seen some comments on the Facebook and the different social media the last couple of days, a lot of fans kind of in this same boat that offensively, not sure exactly what the Browns have here yet, but matter of fact, I saw Nick on the Facebook page yesterday said, hey, they only need defense is going to throw some shutouts this year. I don't know, the level of what this defense is going to do, but I do believe that the Browns have the makings of a top 10 defense here, regardless of what the offense does. I'm very excited defensively for the Cleveland Browns.
I agree. I think this is going to be a very good defense. I'd love to see them also put some points on the board as well, not just being a good defense to stop the other team, but to get some takeaways and maybe take it to the house the other way, because that's what the really great teams do. They actually score on defense, and I would love to see that happen. And the Browns have really been able to bring back a lot of their depth from last year. We talked about the offensive depth. I think the defensive depth is much better. You've got people who are really probably good enough to be starters who are going to be backups, who are going to be challenging for starting jobs. The defensive line and I think the linebackers both have about 6 guys each that are very, very competitive and good enough to start. And then you have a situation where you can start rotating them in and keep just throwing fresh wolves at the opposition.
And I got to tell you, let's start up front with the defense. I think there's some positional battles in the back areas of the defense and the linebackers, but starting up front, I think we're pretty set. I mean, you've got Reuben, Taylor, and Des Bryant that are going to be your 3 starters, but really there's 6 starters in my opinion, because the Browns rotate 6, 7 guys deep, really, and you've got a few new faces in the depth. But really, you're talking about your next wave. Billy Wynn, Ismaili Kitchen, John Hughes, and Armani Bryant. Those 7 guys, I think, unless Calvin Barnett, Cam Henderson, one of these other guys is able to really surprise somebody, I think those 7, and I would assume that no more than 7, maybe even only 6 go. How many of the front do you think? I think they go 7 deep into the season, but that would be it. So I don't think there's a lot really at play there. I think the starters are the starters, your second wave, and I like that. I love Billy Wynn has grown on me over the last couple of years. I like him, and I like what he brings. I like John Hughes and his motor, and do not sleep on Ismaili Kitchen. I think that's one of the strengths of this. And we saw last year when Des Bryant went down, and then you had to fill in there. The depth of that front was what kept it going, because those are big guys, and then you're able to keep just cycling them through 6 or 7 of them, rotating them, keeping those big guys fresh.
Yeah, well, that's really good. You have a depth like that, you become injury-proof. The world doesn't end if one of them goes down. It really built up those guys' experience, those guys you're talking about, like Wynn and Hughes. And it's funny, we've had situations over the last few years where the Browns have drafted guys and they really haven't panned out. But this group of defensive linemen, no matter who picked these guys, no matter who drafted them or chose them as free agents, they've all kind of stuck and they've all performed very well. They've really had a great batting average as far as picking these defensive linemen and having them stick, even going all the way down to, like you said, Ismaili Kitchen and Armonte Bryant. They both showed that they belong in the NFL, and that's why they're going to be back, and I think they'll probably both make the team.
Yeah, Armonte Bryant came close to not even making the squad last year with the issues around him after being drafted and then catching some trouble off the field, but I think he definitely showed, like you said, that he's at least a capable backup there in the conversation. So I think pretty much, like I said, those other guys, they're training camp fodder unless one of them really sticks out. I think those top 6 or 7 got that locked up. Now let's start getting interesting. Let's move back into the linebackers. And, Paul Kluber, safe. There's no competition there. That's your left side linebacker there. Jabal Sheard, Barkevious Mingo. As far as who starts and who doesn't, I don't think it matters a lot because they're going to use both of these guys, I think, extensively. I think you're going to see a lot of different combinations with this defense, as we know. I think Mingo, you're going to see Pettin utilize him. We talked about Alonso last year, but he's just going to find different angles, I think, in different ways to try to set him loose at the quarterback. So on the outside, I don't think you got a lot of competition. You've got, Eric Martin's a guy they picked up, I think, last year. It was, plays some special teams. Inside, though, you brought in Carlos Dansby. We've talked about him. You've got him now in place of the DeQuell Jackson, who has now left. You've got Tank Carter as his backup. But the other side, a definite position battle there. Craig Robertson, Christian Kirksey, the newly drafted linebacker. Who do you think comes out there? Kirksey, known for his ability to cover in pass coverage, which is big. That was a weakness of the linebacker core last year, but Robertson, a lot of experience. Remember, he was Ray Horton's ace in the hole last year, was what he called him. That may have been the curse of the bad nickname there, because nobody played aces when it came to stopping the teams on third downs. But Robertson, speaking like Hoyer, has the advantage of having played and being a little more familiar, but a lot of people like Kirksey too. Do you think the rookie can become the linebacker starting day one?
Yes, I do. I think that Kirksey can do it. And I think, like you mentioned, his ability to cover is going to be very, very important, because when you look at those other linebackers, you're going to have Kruger going after quarterback. You're going to have Barkevious Mingo and Jabal Sheard trying to, get a lot of different looks and just showing up at different spots and attacking the quarterback from all angles. That's how Mike Pettin's defense works, is to be able to create a lot of confusion where the offense looks out and it's like, I don't know, why is this guy supposed to be over there? Wait, when's it? Just really cross them up and have different people on defense being able to play a lot of different roles and be able to switch those roles. Now, one article that was written where Mike Pettin got kind of in a little trouble about, Belichick's going to steal my playbook. They really did a good job of explaining the way Pettin likes to really instruct all of his defenders on all of the different roles and then switch them all around. So.
Yes.
The offense doesn't know what the defenders are going to be doing, whether they're going to be attacking the quarterback or they're going to be dropping back into coverage. I think that the Browns have so many good, pass rushers at linebacker, guys like Sheard and Mingo, that I think that Kirksey is going to benefit by being able to drop back into coverage and be able to pick up a running back or a tight end coming out of the backfield. So, to take nothing away from Robertson, I think that Kirksey, that skill of his, might be enough to win him the starting job.
I'll tell you what, man. I like Kirksey. Dan Wismar, and we talked about him. We've both seen some videos, so we've put some articles up like, hey, so your team just drafted Christian Kirksey. Here's what you can look forward to. And he's explosive. I like him, but I don't want to sleep on Craig Robertson. I'm a little burned by Robertson because I was high on him last year, and the season, he was okay. He was bad at the coverage. That really was his biggest weakness. So my gut tells me like exactly what you said. I think Christian Kirksey wins the job as a starter, but I don't want to put that in stone because I like Robertson. He works hard, and I do believe that he's going to make it a battle. So I'm going to put that one up in the air. But I think Kirksey, I slightly lean towards him winning the job as well. I think his coverage is what's going to put him, is going to make up for what he doesn't have in experience. So I could see that, but we'll see. I'm not sleeping on Craig Robertson either. And now, shift back to the backfield, because we've talked, and I've gushed, I think I'm not the only one, about the increased depth in the backfield. I'm just going to throw out the list of names. Now, every position's jumbled in here, but